If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to Downfall Network for more cool content.
What's up, everybody? Thralls of Metal back once again for another album review. I am Rin.
I'm Shredllord.
I'm Necrotic Nick.
Today we are reviewing Armored Saint's new album, Punching the Sky. Punching This Guy.
Probably this guy.
Sky. Released October 23rd, year of our COVID, 2020.
This comes out on Metal Blade Records. This is the band's 8th album. Formed in 1982 in Los Angeles. They've gone through a couple of breakups and reformations. And honestly, I really don't know much about this band just in terms of the fact that I haven't really listened to all their stuff. Like, I only knew about them because John Bush, fantastic vocalist that he is, also sang for Anthrax. He was on the album we're currently jamming, Sound of White Noise. And I had to do a little backtracking to find out where he came from. Lo and behold, it was Armored Saint, and then I realized I had seen them, technically, because they were in Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth.
Yes, with the camera eye guy.
Yeah, that was wearing the CD.
Throwing the CDs and stuff.
Yeah, he threw them, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Pretty.
And the Huey Lewis in the News video.
Yeah, he was in the Heart of Rock and Roll video. I think they said at the minute and 38 second mark, you could see him getting out of a limo. All sorts of interesting stuff. He's even done voiceover work for Burger King commercials. Now, I don't want to make this entirely about John Bush, but John Bush is a huge factor in this.
He's the man.
One of my favorite, just flat-out rock metal vocalists, just in terms of singing styles, that gruff delivery, but he's very tuneful and distinct. Mm-hmm. You can pick him out instantly.
Yep.
I don't think he gets enough credit in the mainstream as far as mainstream rock
really.
and metal singers go. Nobody really knows who he is, and that's a shame.
So this starts off with Standing on the Shoulders of Giants, which is kind of a platitude title, but there's also other platitudes in here. But this is kind of a interesting opening. It's very Gaelic, Scottish.
William Wallace. It's the alternate music to the end of Braveheart.
Highlander. This is the song that the Kurgan would hate and probably murder people to. But comes in with some clean guitars and really kind of just erupts into straight up heavy metal riffing. That's pretty much their style. Very much like in the pocket, sort of
groovy
Iron Maiden gallops.
Yeah, big ass chorus.
The thing that's always kind of set Armored Saint apart, again back to John Bush, is the fact that his vocals don't necessarily scream like the 80s heavy metal sound, or necessarily like the 90s rock sound. It's sort of just somewhere in between there.
He doesn't really scream, he doesn't really hit high notes, he's
got a mid-range.
Mid-range, really nice.
Powerful. Yeah, he's got a really good mid-range.
Yeah.
A very flexible mid-range, I would say.
And that pretty much still sums up what they sound like in terms of that sort of hybrid between 90s rock and 80s metal. Especially when it comes down to like vocal harmonies, they kind of have more of that 90s rock sound. Like
definitely on the choruses.
Yeah.
Like Alice in Chains-ish, just a little bit.
A little chainsy.
But also in spots you get stuff that was like kind of like post-hair metal, like when hair metal was trying to be a little bit edgier, like, oh, we ditched all the makeup and we only wear acid wash jeans now instead of leopard print.
Zebra print.
Zebra print was also
Put
very
it all
popular.
away.
Put it all away. We still use the Aquanet.
But not as much.
Not as much, no. And we don't shave as often.
Yeah.
One thing that stuck out to me a lot is I heard a lot of shades of Judas Priest
Tons.
throughout this album, and call me crazy or not, anyone who's familiar with the Lynch Mob, which was George Lynch from Dawkins, a solo band after he left Dokken, the very first Lynch Mob record, it had a very 90s kind of a blues, hard rock, heavy metal feel to it, and I get a lot of that sense in here as well, as far as the riffs and the songwriting and stuff go. A lot of those kind of bluesy groove riffs with heavier, guitar tones, so it chunks it up a bunch. Or in other spots referring to the Priest stuff, I mean, it just sounded straight up like some Screaming for Vengeance riffs, very reminiscent of Electric Eye, or very reminiscent of the Hellion.
I mean, I would say my jurisdiction definitely kind of screams that sort of.
That's
90s.
out of my jurisdiction.
Well, it's in ours.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the bass laid in kind of screamed Alice in Chains for just a second.
Yeah.
Like that Rain When I Die.
Un minuto.
Yeah.
but it definitely has that sort of 90s hard rock edge. But then you go back to End of the Attention Span, which was their first lead-off single. That just screams 80s metal. In fact, it's kind of thrashy. It's a little bit more upbeat.
That's one of the heavier Priest songs.
And, I mean, honestly, I detected, like, notes of a band like Death Angel. And Death Angel definitely plays
Same time period.
A lot of homage to Judas Priest as well in that band, too. And then Missile to Gun, which is... odd title. I don't know. I didn't really pay attention to the lyrics to see how it tied in, but I'm pretty sure it was.
The lyrics are kind of silly.
Yeah.
But
Let's talk about them, shall we?
let's talk about the lyrics.
So some songs like Bubble, which Bubble to me is a little bit of a miss. I wasn't really too much of a fan of the song Bubble. That would be the third track on the album. It kind of has this like techno fart.
Yeah, the beginning sounded like Rammstein. I thought John Bush was going to start speaking German.
Und but something.
There's a line in there that goes, I wrote it down. The door is closed, no one's home. Keep trying. If no one's home, why do you keep trying?
Because
you're
it's
breaking
inspirational.
There's examples of this all over the place. I guess I'm just not smart enough to understand.
No,
it's my own fault. It's my
You're breaking into their house. That's not cool.
Just the door's closed, no one's home. Keep trying.
That song is kind of odd too because it opens with that machinery sound, screaming 90s industrial, and then there's the bridge that has a really cool chuggy part, but they're still playing that like machinery clang, like a hammer hitting the anvil, and at that point I was like, what the hell does this have to do with Bubbles?
I was talking and I said it's like I picture a dwarven ironsmith or like, a dwarven smithing some kind of like metal bubble for war.
We be forging bubbles in this place.
Clink!
Ich bin ein Vogel.
Aye, what he said.
What he said, matey.
There's another song as well, "Fly in the Ointment." Now there are some gems on here too, such as the dehydrated cactus and the anxiety riddled tree that's about to get cut down. John Bush says some things that I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
But he's crooning it.
He does a great job
good
delivering
job.
it, but it makes me scratch my head and go, what the hell is going on here?
Some of the stuff he does sing is silly as hell, but he means the shit out of it.
Yeah.
His delivery is impassioned and soulful and tuneful.
Powerful.
And he fucking means it.
And this is why I don't pay attention to the lyrics. But I mean, you also get Lone Wolf, which
80s bad boy
80s
rock.
cheese.
Oh my God.
80s, I want to put it in your butt cheese.
You can-
1988 Dangerous.
You can tell that all of these dudes used to have perms, and they meant it.
And not to like downplay the fact that they have gang vocals, but the gang vocals sound like a church choir in this one. Like you just hear these church choir pop up after John Bush crooned something beautifully. And it just...
in which he meant.
Yeah, he meant
it.
it. He meant it. But it comes off cheesy and not like the fun kind of cheesy, because there's plenty of the fun kind of cheesy.
Yeah, there's
on
fun
here.
cheesy for sure. They're no stranger to leather pants.
No.
There was a couple times on this album I was scratching my head. Do Wrong to None. I wrote down Monster Mash meets Crickets meets a percussion march.
It's a weird intro, and then the
song goes
is
into
really
a very
good.
familiar.
Yeah.
The one thing that sticks out about this album to me is the fact that a lot of the good songs that I enjoy kind of have a very similar sound, and they are very similar, just an overall feel as well, tempo and everything else. So the little variations that they would do, some of them would work and some of them wouldn't. But for the most part, this album had a very, I don't want to say AC/DC-ish feel, because it wasn't that blatant.
Their drummer did a lot.
Yeah, a lot more
Yeah,
work.
the
But
drums are pretty busy.
there was moments throughout this album where I felt like I've already heard this song before.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably in the 80s.
Yeah, it's probably needed. Yeah.
Honestly, like, when it came down to what I think is the strongest material on here, it's the stuff that is very reminiscent of the 80s. When it gets more into the 90s territory and just the kind of tough guy rock, that's when it got bad. Like, the 80s stuff you hear on Never You Fret, the last track, is pure Judas Priest worship with a nice stomp rhythm. It's fun. It's empowering. It's very riffy. There's a lot of catchy harmonies, lead trade-offs, everything you love about 80s metal. But then you got Bark No Bite, which just shouldn't have happened. You have these very...
Call off your dog.
Oh, God, those vocals. And I know they wanted to like, well, gotta sound a little bit rougher and tougher, but not like, you know, like death metal or hardcore tough, just like 80s metal tough. And like,
Get off my lawn.
yeah. And that's what it comes down to. It just sounds like
What you say to me? Step outside this pool hall, I'll show you what's up.
I got a broken Bud Light bottle and a sharpened Jimmy stick for you. Come on at me.
But yeah, the song screams filler. It's just kind of there, and it kind of just makes me wonder because, like, the rest of the stuff that's, again, more that 80s side sounds inspired and fun. And then this just sounds like you had this riff. And there's some really cool guitar melodies on the song, but they are just stuck in this cheesy song that's just, it's more cringe than cheese, actually, I think. As soon as I heard the call off your dogs, I was like, no. It's like Randall Tex Cobb just yelling at me. And if any of you know who he is, that's awesome.
Yes.
But overall, this was a fun listen,
Yes,
though.
yes, it was.
Yeah, it was.
When it comes down to like the pure 80s, like just very epic heavy metal, these guys still got it. And John Bush definitely has
John Bush.
Man, that guy's still singing like Ryan was showing us. He was showing us like the early Armored Saint, and that guy hasn't aged. His voice hasn't aged at all.
He's been doing this for almost 40 years. And
That guy's voice sounds the same.
sounds the same.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was doing. Gargling baby blood. I don't know what the Illuminati do. Not saying that John Bush is part of it, but you never know.
We're watching you. But overall, I'm going to give this 3 stars. I think this is an enjoyable listen for the most part. Like, the bad tracks are bad, but that doesn't take away from how good the good tracks are, because the good tracks are fantastic. Like, you really hear just a lot of top-notch, classic heavy metal. And once again, pretty much as always, if you've listened to anything that's fronted by John Bush, you get a killer vocal performance.
It's true.
And I like his passion and energy for it. Even though the lyrics can be a little silly, it's just a solid delivery. The guy could sing a Denny's menu to me and I'd be like, dude, this is beautiful. I will have the moons over my hammy.
And he means it. I think overall I'm going to give this album a 3 out of 5 as well. This was a very fun listen. The thing that I stated earlier that was kind of weird for me is it had realms of 80s metal and it had realms of early 90s rock and metal. I would next album like to hear them maybe commit more one way or the other and just kind of pick a side and just kind of run with it and see what happens. But overall, a very well executed, well produced, incredible vocal performance. Good fun songs to listen to, reminiscent of good times and good bands. So 3 out of 5, solid album.
I will also go 3 out of 5. It's old dude hard rock done right, and John Bush is the man. Joey Vera is a fantastic bass player. The production's great. Songs are fun. The silly ones are, they're there. But yeah, jam it. Get you some.
Get your pull. Get your pull.
So, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time. We will catch you later.